I ain't stopping.
This is a crystal refinery.
Whoops.
I can take your
Controller got
crystallized charges and
disconnected.
use them to produce energy wells. Yeah, producing 100 crystallized charges?
Yeah.
Well then, that's a lot more than I have. 10 times as much if even.
Fucking hell, what do you want from me? Just a tiny little boy who woke up in the middle of nothing.
Alright, I just realized since I got to a new floor, the dialogues for everyone has changed, so let me go talk to everyone.
Fuck. Realize we don't go back so fast. But I have time.
Interesting.
Okay, well, look. I have all the time in the world because I can fucking recall it. Oh, that's weird. Oh, fuck.
No. We don't even have a house.
You don't have to just aim
We've just been staying at an inn.
like directly in front of you, or like this. If the cursor went all over
And
the
the boy
screen.
keeps raising the rent.
Whoa, why did you go in that direction? Holy fuck.
Curse poems. Pale horse.
Am I going into the air? Whoa, whoa, whoa! It's pretty cool! Yeah,
That doesn't sound very healthy.
it sings out!
Not sure whether this place knows, but
Power.
the Ocean City with all their advanced technology should definitely be aware of stuff like that. They should know science. At least equal to ours.
Red dot.
Should be more than equal of ours. Arm hammer. As in like bind arms? In the White Forest. I mean the latest.
Is this just gonna open?
Ah, it's a quest meant for us specifically.
Oh. Does it open with the red? What am I doing?
What does that matter to you? Unless you swing the same way here and everyone in Uriai does.
Oh, I see. And then if
Ah,
they line at the top.
where's the drunkard? The the
Okay.
scavenger specialist Tolmar or whatever his name was. I forgot.
But how do I keep the thing? Know what I mean? Like when they get up there.
Damn. So,
Huh!
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I was curious.
Day or night, either way is freaking terrible.
Just wait for them to line up and then do it at the same time. Okay. I got it. I'm genius. I'm Smarty Pants McGruber, whatever. Because he was like, oh, get 3 blessings and then you can open up the door. I was like, don't you normally need 4? Breath of the Wild and then...
Huh. A portal maze puzzle would actually be a perfect type of puzzle. Annoying, but it would be very fitting for there to be a puzzle like that in one of the Etrian Odyssey games. There was a portal puzzle as well in Mary Skelter 1, Nightmares.
Oh, cool.
It was in Gretel, and it's supposed to be a reference to following the breadcrumbs, because that's how you solve the puzzle. Spoilers, I guess?
So no thing here that I can talk
Well, I mentioned something that should be obvious by now, but yeah. I won't elaborate further because if I do, I will actually be genuinely giving out the puzzle solution.
Maybe there was.
And this isn't the Mare Skelter 1 playthrough, nor is it the Mare Skelter 1 walkthrough. Anyway, I'll go through one more loop.
Is it actually easy to get
I
there?
timed my sailing perfectly, as well as my exploration, so that I'd be able to refresh at exactly 0 AM again.
I was gonna say that's okay.
It's always
'cause I
very
have a
satisfying to
way
do that.
That I could use to actually I think if I pull out my wing, you might be able to fly across them. I don't wonder this just ascend up through. The gators rise together. The gators ascend. I think we can. Wait for it. There we go. Ascend, baby. Swim through solid concrete. Maybe it's stuck halfway sometimes. It's just in the ether. Can't think anything about that. Come on, man. I already did it.
We're having Picadilly tomorrow, apparently. That's nice. It took me today years old to find out a certain habit of mine that I have relating to food. Damn it!
I like that I can use it pretty quick. There's not much food there. Hello, lady. I'm here to get your blessings. Blessings be upon me.
Anyway, as for this habit of mine, I realized that whenever the meals we're having is not something that I personally like, I tend to make up for it by immediately eating something else, no matter how filling it was. A snack that I actually enjoy. Some kind of potato chip, a candy, anything. To make me feel satisfied.
Oh, bring peace to the world. You got it.
I personally think I'm a person who eats to live, not lives to eat, but the fact that I consider the enjoyment of my food to be something of great importance, that I try to make up for it. Don't know what that says about me. Or anyone else that's similar to me.
Oh my god, do I get to just jump down?
Like right now, I have some craving for Nagaraya after dinner, even though I'm actually quite stuffed, I'd say. When a meal truly satisfies me, I never really ever feel the need or even do eat anything. Until the next day, if it's dinner or the next mealtime. So, take note to anyone taking care of me, I guess. Give me foods that I like, and the amount of money I'll spend on food will be decreased, I guess. I don't know.
Music's awesome.
Wow. Is it just me or the rates here just so much higher compared to the other place?
Papa! No!
Big surprise, we knew it was gonna happen. What? Okay. I don't want to beat up the mushroom yet. I'm trying to suit up still.
It's fucking terrifying being this far up off the earth.
I'll keep my eye out. But first, let me finish up the rest of my shopping.
Link. Sorry I died.
This place sucks though. Yeah, anytime I'm gathering out materials in the Taken in B17, it's always like really lucky. I don't know, RNG works in strange ways, but the funny thing about probability is it is still somewhat predictable. It did take up spot on the inventory. How annoying.
What?
Whatever. This should still give me enough to buy everything else I want. So I can bring Iya.
Let's set the sword way back in time.
Yeah, I like how obvious it was. Because I figured it out. Everyone else did. It was... It was barely a mystery. I feel like time shenanigans have become such a trope in high fantasy that it becomes so predictable now whenever it's a thing that happens. I unconsciously opened the pack of Nagaraya without even thinking. Whoops, whatever, too late.
Okay, I guess I'll do it again. Jeez, I've been doing it my entire life. Just don't. Fuck yeah, that's so cool!
I think I have the weapons that I want.
Hey, aim for the bushes.
Give this fire.
Wow! Damn, it's good to be back, baby! You guys will never believe the technology I found! Oh, so is that a dungeon over there? Like a wind temple? Because they did say some of that stuff is back in the game, like a fire temple, wind temple kind of thing. At least I hope so. That'd be really cool. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this first episode here. This is absolutely incredible. I'm having a fucking great time with it so far. A blast. I can't wait to play more of it. Let me know if you guys want to see more. Like I said before, I'm not promising a full series on it. I would love to do it and get stuck in, but it's such an immensely long game that I don't want to be playing something for like a month if people just aren't into it. So
You played God of War Ragnarok.
Interested in the game at all? So drop a like on it, share it around. Let me know down in the comments. But so far, it's fucking fantastic. So far, I like it a lot more than Breath of the Wild. Like the types of powers that are in it, I can kind of like extrapolate it out and see where the story's going, and the fact that there's dungeons and all these powers combined, fusing stuff together, making stuff from puzzles. It's going to be insane. I can't wait to see what the rest of this game has to offer. But for now, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. It's 3 AM. I need to go to bed.
the trolls. I keep confusing. Macaboon is really good. Just the fact that it insta-kills, nothing else really matters. Since I have skills that do that for me now though.
Hello, ladies, my name is XFK. Welcome back to Tears of the Kingdom.
We're going on with that.
Exactly where we left off. It's morning time now for me in real life. So, a dazzle, a foot charge with a powerful light, break it to unleash dazzling sparkles of blind.
I haven't actually finished talking to everyone yet.
Isn't it weird how this is basically the same Hyrule as last time? Like, it's the same map, just with all these extra islands and stuff lying around. But there's so many new plants and stuff growing. I don't really understand how they're explaining that away. But let's get our bearings a little. We have
That's the fun part. They
Hyrule
don't.
Castle, which Ganon did his whole like blows it in the air. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming like wind temple. That is so sick looking though. These giant like boxes in the air.
Wow, this one's actually stronger.
Now there it is.
Oh, the funny thing is I don't actually want E. I don't actually care about E getting stronger. She can insta-kill. And she can't kill anyway.
It's like the first game that it almost makes the first game obsolete now. Like it does everything the first game did, but now probably better.
Well, let's try. 300 attack. That's so wacky.
Oh my god, there's so much to do. I'm so overwhelmed. Even in the first episode, I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what the fuck I was supposed to do. Oh, there. I don't know. Oh, this is gonna be a Korok for sure. If this rock is gonna be underneath. Pick up. Ah.
Fire. I don't know. I don't think you can go wrong with infusing an elemental weapon.
Oh, drop it on his head. He's gonna go.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
I love that they put that in because then people would just drop it immediately after picking it up. There's so much fire for them. Whoa, there's tons of shrines. That looks like a town area. I lit a town area. Ooh, stable. Yeah, okay, let's go there first. That's all this game is going to be. It's like, oh, let's go over here. Oh, wait, what's that over there, though? No, wait, let's go over here. What are you doing? Oh, guys, I am not playing FromSoft game.
Veil.
I was trying to lock on with right click. Rock hammer.
V3 might be useful again.
What does that stuff do? It burned up. Dang it.
Oh, but I want Teosra.
Fire, though. I want my paraglider, dang it! This game is
I'll
so
live.
boring to run around in. Well, that's not boring, but it's so much stupider to run around in this game when you don't have a paraglider. Give me those apples.
No, it's not.
Thank you. Steppy!
You're relying on the glider as a crutch.
Burn your ass down! I'll burn your whole family to the ground!
Calm down.
Thank you! Nice. Although a wooden stick. What is that? I don't know how to attach that to a weapon. I don't know what it is yet. Oh, matter. Oh, do it anyway. Combat form.
Oh yeah, Alma leveled up.
I did
She
it!
can insta-kill people
My name's
now.
Link, and I'm awesome! I don't know why I'm putting all that heat on you, Link. I don't know why I'm coming after you like that.
I'll go with this for now.
Guy. It sure is brown looking, isn't it? Oh, giant donut! The hell is that? Can I fly through it? Get on one of those bird things and just... This is smart. Crap! I keep forgetting that the shield, as soon as I try to block it all...
I've never really stopped using this limit. All the other limits just fucking suck.
Can't you just, like, get rid of something? Tree branch? I wish they changed that. I wish I could substitute a weapon immediately and not have to throw it away and pick up another thing. Oh. Hell yeah! I am the strongest.
I am the fucking strong. Yo, Yuri.
So peaceful.
That wasn't-
sorry. I need the meat. How else am I going to survive?
I said
in this
nothing.
godforsaken land. I need meat for sustenance.
Yikes.
It's a shame though that the resolution is ass. It's like what, 900p instead of 1080p? It's fine, it's a Switch, it's still fun to play, the resolution doesn't matter that much. But at the same time, like, make a new Switch. Or, what I would really like is, can you imagine if you had a Switch and the dock, you could buy like a dock that was better, that had an external GPU in it? So that when you plugged your Switch into the dock, and then plugged that into your TV, it had extra horsepower to just get you to higher resolution and frame rate. I don't need like crazy textures. I don't need extra particle effects or all that. The game looks gorgeous as it is.
You are old.
Just give us the opportunity to like let it shine.
It's just that one managed to maintain their young appearance, and you actually
60 FPS. It's 2023.
look
There should be a baseline for every game.
young still, despite your age, technically.
These bubble frog creatures are supposed to live in caves, eh? The bullfrog. Oh, don't scare me like that. Your poor heart can't take it. Are you by chance looking for bubble frogs too? That's right. Knew it. Must have asked you too. Supposedly, there are creatures called bubble frogs that live in caves. They're bluish and whitish and stick to walls. Odd stuff. And those two folks at Woodland Stable in northeast Eldon.
You're boring.
Curious pair. Very strange.
I want the king back.
They're looking for something the bubble frogs drop.
I'll even take Olympia as well.
So that's what I bring. Okay. Good talking to you, Gladys. That's not your name.
I go back there a lot.
I would have called you dumbass instead.
Still, that's where most of the stuffs are.
They drop a freaking rupees! Get back here! Hold on, let me use my stone thing. Well, tits. Those are the bunny bunnies, aren't they? I forgot about them. I thought it was all the wrong. Whoa!
Still going on about that.
Start swinging, Link!
You have to let it go.
The clear of day. Wait, so... Oh, man, is that how they're gonna do it? So, a big thing with dungeons in games, and Skyrim and Elden Ring are a good example of this. Zelda is like the king. Zelda is flawless when it comes to its dungeon design, because they think of everything. But, especially older Zelda games, but Elden Ring and Skyrim had to do like little tricks, because when you go to dungeons, it's like, you get in, you explore, you do all your stuff, and then it's like, how do you get out when you're done? And especially, how do you know you're out, and how do you know you're at the end of it? Unless you have like a map or something to explore. So Elden Ring's solution was that you go in, you do the dungeon, and then there's like a blue light that you click, and you end up at the start of it again. I really don't like that design, because I feel like, especially for FromSoft, it's lazy. Not lazy is probably not the right word. But I feel like it's cutting corners where FromSoft are so good at the level design that why don't you just do what Skyrim did, where you get in, you do the dungeon, whatever. Sure, the dungeons all kind of look the same, but at the end of it there's a door, there's like a secret wall that opens up and then you're back out at the entrance of it. I love that. So I think what this game is doing is that you have the Ascend ability now. So when you're in the dungeon and you feel like you've explored everything, then you just use the Ascend ability to go through the roof to get back out. That's kind of cool. Oh my god. What are all these? Watermelons! Oh, hell yeah! God, I'm talented! Long stick?
Looks like 2 parts is all he did.
Roasted bass spear. What's that gonna do? Horribly. Oh, it's making me enemies. What are you gonna do with a roasted bass spear? You're just gonna be like, eat it! Come on, nom nom, open wide! Nice. Horrible claw. Little horrible horn. I kinda want that, actually. Get rid of wooden box stuff. I don't want to get rid of long stick stick. Long stick stick is friend. Eat it. Horrible horn.
Is measured basically always by physical or magical strength, by the ability to defeat one's opponents in battle. And this makes sense, it's an action-based game. Almost all gameplay is made up of combat. Of course, power is going to be defined by physical and magical strength. By that measure, Kratos surely must be the most powerful being that exists in this universe, since he kicks everyone's butts all the time. Zeus was, I think, the most powerful enemy he ever faced, because Zeus was clearly physically stronger than anyone else. In God of War 3, the battle against Zeus progresses through like 20 different phases, each phase more bombastic and crazier than the one that came before. I've seen many people say they were disappointed by the final battle with Odin in Ragnarok, because in comparison to the confrontation with Zeus, the battle with Odin is over quickly. Odin's fight is actually pretty easy. I think this is a symptom of a difference in the kind of power the two antagonists wield. Zeus was all about literal, physical, magical power, whereas Odin's power lays more in his ability to manipulate things around him, in his scheming and his plans, and the deep well of knowledge that he can draw from. When all his manipulations and schemes and knowledge failed him, Odin was a relatively weak opponent, at least relative to Zeus. Anyway, the point is that in the original trilogy, power was defined by strength. In the Norse games, this starts to change. In God of War 4 and Ragnarok, I think Kratos is on a journey to discover a very different kind of power. In his later life as a father, a moral strength, a strength in empathy and understanding. Now, let's get back to Freya. Before I say anything at all about Freya, I want to watch the clip of her introduction in the game. And while you watch, I want you to think about power. Think about how power is portrayed. Think about who appears to have power in this scene and why. Alright, here we go.
I don't leave the rent anywhere. He doesn't. He's my friend.
Boy was followed by that.
Then help fix this. Hold here, please. Hold, I said. He's losing blood. The master was kind enough but well when you shoot him. You needed food. Target practice. Target practice. I'm so sorry. Keep that pressure on. The blame is mine. I should get a closer eye. Will he die? I will not let him. You, the arrow cut entirely inside him. Find both ends and hold them tightly. Start with the left side. Grab it and hold. Now the right side. Hold it tight. Good. Now pull them together. Line them up. Now. You're a witch. I can't finish the healing here. My home is just beyond the trees there. You will carry him. He must not die.
So I ask again, which character has the power in this scene, the authority? Obviously, it's Freya. She is totally in charge in this scene, and she's in charge immediately. She is giving commands, and Kratos is, with some hesitation and resistance, the one following. This is unusual. Kratos doesn't often follow other people's orders, and it's even more unusual because Freya's power doesn't come with any apparent threat of violence. She isn't going to overpower Kratos if he refuses to follow her instructions. There isn't going to be a fight here, and she's still the one in charge. So, where is her power, her authority, emanating from here? The answer is, in this scene, Freya possesses a moral authority, an ethical authority. Her power here stems from our sense of right and wrong. Kratos and Atreus have done something wrong here by trying to kill this magical boar. Now, Freya has called them out on it and is urging them to make things right. Of course, it's important that she's also being portrayed with some pretty significant magical power as well, but she isn't using that magic to beat anyone into submission. She's using it to heal, to save a life, to make the world a little bit of a better place. This is extremely important to the story of God of War 4. Every god Kratos has ever met has been violent, manipulative, destructive, and very often downright evil, including himself. Kratos is a god too, and in his past he has been violent, destructive, and even evil. At the very least, not good. At this point, Kratos believes that godhood itself is a kind of curse. The power of godhood corrupts, sickens, and turns people into monsters. The problem is, his son is a god too. Atreus is a god. Kratos is raising a god, what he must perceive as a sort of ticking time bomb. How can he possibly rescue his son from the curse that is godhood, prevent his son from becoming as violent, destructive, and evil as every other god he has ever confronted? Kratos' solution at the start of the game is just to keep the truth from Atreus. Do not tell him that he is a god. This is obviously not a very good solution, and not one that can last forever. So what can he do? Well, here is Freya. She's a god too. She's a god of the Vanir, and her power does not stem from violence or destruction, but from a moral high ground, from the power to heal, to command, to lead. For the first time in his life, though he doesn't actually realize it yet, Kratos is seeing an example of what a god can be. This is the kind of god he could raise his son into. This is even the kind of god he himself could become. A moral, ethical god. Good god. However, Freya is a complicated character. She's not just a saintly paragon of virtue, some abstract example of perfection for Kratos and Atreus to aspire to. She is her own character with her own problems and her own failings. It's really good writing that Freya can both be an example of what Kratos could grow into, while at the same time being flawed and complex herself.
Sure, is my inventory full?
And character development. Freya is, in my opinion, one of the best written characters in God of War 4. Now let's get into some backstory. Freya is a god of the Vanir of Vanheim. She led the Vanir gods during the war between the Vanir and Aesir.
Oh, that's just weird.
Conquer Vanheim by force. Freya and the rest of the Vanir did pretty well for themselves, and eventually Mimir negotiated a truce between the two sides. The peace would be cemented by a marriage between the leaders of both factions, a marriage between Odin and Freya. For the sake of peace, Freya abandoned her home, abandoned her family, and went to live with her enemies. Until the events of Ragnarok, she would not see her home or family again. This marriage is representative of Freya's moral strength. I really don't think it can be overstated how terrible the sacrifice she made here was. She gave up everything for the sake of peace. Ask yourself, could you do this? Could you give up your family, your home, everything you've ever cared about, and go live the rest of your life with a person who tried to kill, subjugate, and enslave you and your entire race? I don't think I could. Freya's moral strength is genuinely really impressive. According to Mimir, after the marriage, things were okay for a time. Odin tried to make the relationship work. Freya became the leader of the Valkyries, a great warrior with a just cause. She and Odin had a son together, Baldur, who Freya loved deeply. But like so many other mythological tales, all this was done by a prophecy. The Norns foretold that her beloved son Baldur would die a needless death. To prevent this, Freya cast a powerful spell on Baldur that granted him pure invulnerability and immortality. This decision, the spell, would have disastrous consequences. It would destroy Freya's relationship with her son, poison her relationship with Odin, lead her to exile, and ultimately lead to Baldur's death, the loss of the very person she was trying to protect in the first place. A side effect of the invulnerability spell was a loss of physical control. Baldur is incapable of any physical sensation. His body became numb. Think of how much of the pleasure in your life derives from your sense of touch. You could not not feel warmth. You could not feel softness. You could not feel the texture of food or mouth. You could not feel physical intimacy with a partner. Imagine how muted life would become without a sense of touch. Baldur was, to put it lightly, resentful. He came to hate his mother for what she had done to him. Odin, himself terrified of his own mortality, wanted to know the secret of the spell, and Freya refused. Afterwards, he dropped
Sure.
the loving act he had been
A noble and just cause.
cast a curse on her so she would never be able to return to her home or family again. Eventually, Baldur's quest for vengeance will lead him to crossing paths with Kratos and his own death. This is a deep tragedy. In her attempt to save someone she cared about, instead Freya lost everything again for a second time. But this is also what makes her moral strength so impressive. At the start of God of War 4, despite everything she's lost, despite her exile, despite being cut off from her home and family, despite being scorned by her husband and son, despite her loneliness, she appears very healthy. The world of God of War 4 tends to be pretty bleak. But look how full of color, light, and life Freya's home is. Look how warm the colors are here, how vibrant. In the often dreary, deadly, lifeless world of Midgard, Freya's home is a bastion of warmth and light. In spite of everything that has happened to her, she has built a very comfortable and cozy home, keeps herself busy, has formed new relationships with the local magical wildlife. Her house is a freaking giant turtle, and come on. She is making the absolute best of a bad situation, and it's genuinely kind of inspiring. However, there is a darkness within Freya, a brokenness, even a sort of illness. It takes a long time for it to become apparent, but eventually the player does see it. For a long while, Freya serves as a sort of guide and helper to Kratos and Atreus. She has a lot of answers, a lot of power, and is willing to go out of her way to help them. For the first time, you'll get a sense that it's wanting Freya that this image of the benevolent, perfectly generous goddess she's
There's multiple.
is when she revives Mimir. So, to free Mimir from his imprisonment, Kratos chops off the dude's head, and then they bring that head over to Freya, and she brings it back to life. There is some resentment because Mimir was the one who negotiated her marriage to Odin. She kind of ended up ruining her entire life, but she goes through with the revival anyway. However, she secretly casts an enchantment on Mimir. She makes it so he is incapable of remembering anything about Baldur. Baldur is, of course, Freya's son, and while he hates her, and they have no relationship whatsoever, and haven't spoken in years, she still deeply loves him, and is still willing to go to extreme lengths to ensure he doesn't come to harm. Again, there is a darkness within Freya, a very deep and well-hidden darkness. She is fixated on Baldur's safety to a pretty extreme degree, even after all these years. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, she's his mother, of course she's obsessed with her child's safety, but that spell she cast on him is really extreme. It's the real-life equivalent of locking your son in a bubble against his will to make sure he can never be hurt. But that would be a crazy thing to do. Part of being a parent also involves, when your kids grow up, allowing them to journey out into the world on their own, however dangerous it might be, and respect them enough as individuals to take their own risks. Freya is psychologically capable of doing that. The idea of her son's death is so terrifying to her that she goes to the most extreme lengths possible to keep him safe. To see the first real hint of that darkness in Freya, let's watch this clip.
I think I got this.
Wait. Where did you get those? The arrows. Give them to me, now.
They were a gift.
Do as she says, boy.
These arrows are dangerous. They're wicked. You find any more, you destroy them, understand? Do you understand? Say it!
I understand. If I see them, I'll destroy them.
It's all I ask. Forgive me. Please, take my arrows in their place. I have no need for them anymore.
Whoa, that Sabertooth sure
What's
can deal
happening here
damage.
is that Baldur's invulnerability has one weakness, mistletoe. If he is struck by mistletoe, his invulnerability will vanish and he will be able to die again. Atreus has been gifted mistletoe arrows, and when Freya sees them, she freaks the freak out.
Of course.
She has a serious overreaction. You can see it in both Kratos and Atreus' reactions that they're like, whoa, this lady is crazy. This is the first time you see that darkness within Freya. There's an emotional instability within her, even mental instability, and it is pretty dramatic. How do we explain this? How do we explain why Freya, who seems otherwise so well put together, becomes sort of hysterical when confronted with anything that might have a chance of threatening Baldur's safety? I think there are two explanations. First of all, Freya isn't as put together as she seems. She
No,
is
not the Sabertooth.
wounded by all the terrible things that have happened to her. All the loss, all the loneliness. She's just really good at hiding it, at putting on an appearance of health and normalcy. To see the second reason, we're going to watch another clip. This is from much later in the game, when Atreus has fallen ill, and Freya and Kratos are discussing how Kratos needs to tell Atreus the truth about his nature. And here Freya is going to reveal the history of her own relationship with her son.
He is too ill.
I can break the fever, but to heal,
You must know the truth of what he is.
yes.
It is not so simple.
Tell me, brother. Did I tell you that I have a son too? It's been forever since I last saw him. At his birth, the runes foretold a needless death. Babe in my arms was so small, so helpless. I knew right then I would do anything to protect him, no matter the sacrifice. Of course, everything I did for myself. I let my needs, my fears, come before what he needed. And I couldn't
Nice.
see his resentment until it was too late. Don't make the same mistake. Have faith in him. I know the truth isn't simple, but nothing is when you lose your child.
It is a curse. The boy has been cursed.
Pay particular attention to that line. I would do anything to protect him, no matter the sacrifice. The reason Freya is holding it together at all is because Baldur is still alive and safe. Remember, all of this, the exile, the loss of her family, all happened to Freya as a result of the invulnerability spell she cast on Baldur. I think she justifies all this to herself by saying, I've sacrificed everything for the sake of my son's safety. So long as my son is still alive and safe, losing all of this was worth it. Everything that's happened to me was worth it, so long as he lives. And that means that if Baldur dies, then all of her sacrifices weren't worth anything, or pointless, meaningless. If you think about it through this lens, I think it explains a lot about why Freya does what she does in Ragnarok. I've seen a lot of players who are confused or frustrated with Freya's choices. At the start of Ragnarok, people ask, why is she behaving
Nice.
this way? It doesn't make sense to me. But we'll get into that more later. Something else interesting
Okay,
about
Veil
this scene
Sabertooth is
that Freya
amazing.
says that she regrets casting that spell on Baldur against his will. Even acknowledges that what she did was wrong, that it was selfish, that she was protecting herself as much as she was protecting Baldur, protecting herself from the grief of his eventual loss. However, even though she says this, her actions tell a different story. She's not actually ready to give up that invulnerability spell. She's not ready to let Baldur face the perils of the world without it. We saw it in her extreme overreaction to Atreus' mistletoe arrows. We'll see it again in the final confrontation of the game, when Baldur's invulnerability actually is dispelled, and her reaction then is pretty extreme too. Freya is a character who knows the choice she made was selfish and wrong, and yet cannot bring herself to make a different choice. She cannot let her son die. No matter the sacrifice, even if it means doing wrong, even if it means causing him to hate her. Moving forward with the plot, Kratos and Freya actually have a bit of a falling out. Kratos didn't know that she was a god of the Norse pantheon. When he finds out, he is angry and feels lied to. Kratos has been manipulated and hurt by almost every god in the Greek pantheon, and so he is deeply distrustful of gods. He basically tells Freya to go screw herself and storms off. Their next interaction is extremely important, so we're gonna watch it in a clip. This clip will explain why Kratos respects Freya as much as he does. even though she is a god. Why he is so resistant later to face her in battle, to hurt her. Why he tries so hard to return peace to their relationship. So here it is.
Freya! Open the door! We need your help! Woman, do you hear me? It is urgent!
I'm still a god. Go away.
The boy has fallen ill! Freya!
Inside. This is no ordinary illness. The boy's true nature, your true nature, fights within him.
That's just a weapon anyway, who cares?
I did this to you. Will you let me?
Of course.
Then I must return home. Think of the past I swore. Stay buried.
Who you were before doesn't matter. This boy is not your past, he is your son. And he needs his father. This room opens the bridge to Helheim. When you are there, do not under any circumstances cross the bridge of the damned. There is no road back. Understand?
Boy,
Piccolo, you must hurry. Through my garden there's a path leading to my boat. Take it. Return home. Dig up your past. Do whatever you need to do. Just bring me back the Bridgekeeper's heart. And your son may survive.
Freya. Last we spoke, there was
No. You are right to distrust the word of a god. No need to explain. Not to me, not for that. I will keep him safe. Let's have others know this.
Why not?
What's happened here is that Atreus has fallen mortally ill. Kratos, as any parent would be, is terrified. He doesn't know what to do. He can't do anything. Remember how I started this essay by talking about power? I said earlier that, by the rules of this action video game universe, where power is measured by physical strength, by the ability to vanquish your foes, surely Kratos must be the most powerful being in this world. And yet, in spite of all his incredible power, his unbelievable might, even though he can defeat literally any foe in battle, god or demon or mythological force, he can do nothing for his sick son here. In this moment, he is powerless, and he knows it. Listen to the panic in his voice, the fear. This is the most anxious and afraid
Fire.
Kratos has ever been
And physical
in any
attacks.
of the games.
Nice.
Kratos is also very alone in these games. He has purposely isolated himself from the world to protect the world from himself. He has no friends or family. He is used to dealing with all of his problems on his own. And when he is finally faced with a problem for which he can do nothing on his own, he has no one to turn to, no one except Freya. As soon as she hears that Atreus is sick, Freya does everything she can to help immediately, without hesitation. Notice that moment when he asks so pitifully, "Will you help me?" And her answer is, "Of course." I just spent a lot of time talking about the darkness within Freya, but there is also a tremendous amount of good in her too. To have such good and darkness mingled within her, she is a truly complex character. I really can't say enough about how well written I think her character is. And I think part of the reason she is so willing to help is because she sees another parent in pain. Another parent about to lose their child, and she knows that pain, understands it, how awful it is, and doesn't want anyone else to have to feel that way. But I also think Freya would help almost any injured or ill person who showed up on her doorstep. I think she is a genuinely compassionate character who has both the power and the will to help whoever she can, which makes the transformation she undergoes between games, when after the death of Baldur she becomes that angel of vengeance, who cares for nothing but causing pain to those who have wronged her, so much more tragic, so much sadder. Anyway, this is the reason why Kratos absolutely refuses to fight Freya in Ragnarok. At his lowest, most pitiful, most powerless moment, she helped him without hesitation or question, and he will never forget it. Before we move on to the finale of the game, we need to talk a little bit more about Freya and Baldur's relationship. The strange thing about their relationship is that we actually know very little about what Freya thinks of her son. We know a lot about what Baldur thinks of Freya. We know he resents her for casting the invulnerability spell on him against his will, hates her, even wants to kill her, that he harbors absolutely no affection or love for his mother, no desire for a relationship. But what does Freya think of Baldur? What are her feelings towards him? Obviously, we know that she still cares deeply for his safety, that she's still willing to go to extreme lengths to ensure his safety, even that she regrets casting the spell. We know she still loves him and wants a relationship with him. However, Baldur is a frankly bad person. He is vindictive, hateful, and bully. Someone who enjoys hurting others, who doesn't seem to care about anyone but himself. Someone willing to kill his own mother. Freya loves him still, sure. A lot of parents still love their children in spite of their flaws. There are a lot of convicted murderers sitting in prison cells right now who have parents who still love them unconditionally. But what does Freya think about him? What is her perception of Baldur? Does she recognize what a terrible person he is? Can she see his flaws? Does she blame herself for how full of hate he is? Or does she blame Odin? Does she think Baldur can be redeemed? That he can still embark on another path? Or has she given up on him? Does she see his flaws at all? Some parents are blind to their children's faults. Some parents truly cannot believe their children are anything other than perfect little angels. Is Freya one of those kinds of parents? We don't know. Freya doesn't talk very much about Baldur in either of these games. She doesn't say almost anything about how she feels about him, or his choices beyond desiring his safety. I find this gap in her character to be somewhat frustrating. I really wish we knew more here. I wish at some point during Ragnarok she would say anything about Baldur and who he was as a person, but she just doesn't, unless I completely missed a line of dialogue somewhere. If I did, do please let me know. But now we need to move on to the finale of God of War 4, to Freya's final interactions with her son. So let's watch it. And as you watch, remember the journey that Freya has been on. She lost everything for the sake of protecting Baldur, sacrificed everything. Her home, her family, her freedom, her emotional health. She knows her choice was wrong, and yet she cannot make a new choice. Her son hates her for it, but all she wants is a relationship with him, and this is how it goes.
I had a feeling that hurting the big snake would bring the two of you out in the open. Do you have any idea at all, what it would have cost me? My boy. Mother.
I'm here. Don't run away.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere, Mother.
I know that you're still angry. I know that how you feel hasn't changed, but I want you to
How I feel? How I feel? I've spent the last 100 years dreaming of this moment. I rehearsed everything I ever wanted to say to you, every word, to make you understand exactly what you stole from me. But now, I realize I don't need you to understand anything. I don't need you at all.
Oh, Kratos, this has nothing to do.
This path you walk, vengeance, you will find no peace. I know.
You. I'll deal with you later. But family first.
That's a gun.
This again.
You can hear the shock in Baldur's voice when he sees her. I don't think Freya realized how angry Baldur would be. I don't think she realized how, over the course of all these years, her son's resentment for her had festered, how the hate grew within him, how it consumed him. I don't think she had any idea at all just how filled with hate Baldur is, how useless trying to talk would be. Nothing she could say to Baldur matters to him. He isn't a character who cares about talk. He is what Kratos used to be, someone who has given up everything but violence, someone for whom violence has become a way of life. He will kill and destroy and do nothing else. This is why I wish we knew a little more about what Freya thinks of Baldur, because it seems to me that she really knows nothing about who her son really is. That she thought this talk ever had any chance of working shows how little she knows of who her son has become. Next, let's watch the scene where Baldur loses his invulnerability and see Freya's reaction.
No boy. Fine. Stop! No! Atreus! You're bleeding. Please, boy. Breathe.
Not my blood.
What is this? I can feel this. I can feel everything.
He's vulnerable now.
I'm not bringing
What's happened here is
V3.
that Atreus had some mistletoe on his bow strap, and when Baldur punched him, it penetrated his hand, which dispelled the invulnerability. Freya responds with a classic Darth Vader, "Ooh." Earlier, she said that she knew what she had done to Baldur was wrong, that she should have trusted him, that the spell was a mistake. But now that her mistake has been undone, she reacts with total despair. I don't think this is an inconsistency in the writing of her character. I think this is human and relatable. I mean, think about it. How many times in your life have you done something that you knew was wrong and you still did it anyway? Freya's reaction here is very human. I also want to talk about the kind of magic Freya is wielding in this scene. Her magic is tremendously powerful. She has revived this dead giant's corpse and is using its hand to pick up Kratos and Atreus. However, she isn't using her magic to fight, to damage, to inflict harm. I talked earlier about how Freya's power in this game doesn't come from her ability to hurt others, but rather from a moral high ground. And you can see that here. She's using her incredible magic power to try to stop this fight, to put an end to violence. It's a very different use of power than we're used to seeing in the God of War franchise. Finally, we need to move on to Freya's final scene in the game, her final interaction with her son.
Stop. Please.
He's painful.
You will not come to us again. You will not touch her.
I don't need your protection. Just kid. Love yourself. Can you, mother? No matter what I do or say, you won't stop interfering in my life. I was just trying to protect you. I made mistakes. I know. But you're free now. You have what you want. Try
I need to check something.
At the end of the fight, Kratos defeats Baldur, and Freya begs for her son's life. Kratos relents, and then this final interaction between Freya and Baldur is fascinating. Freya's line, "I was just trying to protect you," really sums up her entire character. That is her primary motivation throughout this story. She is trying to protect her son. Everything she does is towards that singular goal. But from her son's perspective, all she's done is limit him, constrain him, block him, stand in his way.
Yeah, he
Freya
can
is
heal
the classic
still.
archetype of the overprotective parent, the overbearing parent, not allowing her child to make their own choices. It's a common archetype because it's a common reality. There are a lot of parents out there in the world, deeply loving, who care about their children.
Yeah, but he
their
doesn't
love
have
is
Maris.
too much. It is smothering. And
Super
then Freya's
useful.
plea of, "We can
Super
build
OP
something."
skill.
I find this to be a really, really sad line, because she's
Yeah,
right.
Royal
She and
Veil.
Baldur could still have a relationship. They could overcome past mistakes. We just watched Kratos do exactly that. This is a world where people can change and grow. But Baldur is just so angry. He is so filled with hatred. It's impossible. You can see the moment when Freya realizes it too, when she finally accepts who her son is, accepts that he will never forgive her, and never have a relationship with her. Also, that line, "I have paid." We've discussed this a lot already. Everything Freya has lost. All she sacrificed for Baldur's sake. And he really has no idea. Baldur is a character with no empathy. He cannot see beyond his own personal pain. He's incapable of seeing his mother's pain. Freya accepts her death here. At the hands of her son, she is willing to die. And the thing is, as crazy as it is, as inconceivable as it might be to us, the audience, that is her choice to make. We've already talked about how everything Freya has done was for the sake of her son, that his safety meant more to her than anything, that she sacrificed everything for his safety, that his continued life was the only thing that made her sacrifices worth it from her perspective. This is just one more sacrifice for his sake. And I think Freya, who cares so much for her son, probably no longer wants to live a life where she can never have a relationship with him, where he will never forgive her. From her perspective, that's not a life worth living. She would rather die than live that life. She would rather believe her son will get some kind of closure from her death than live knowing her life causes him pain. Now let's continue the clip to see where this all goes.
Why do you even care? You could have walked away. The cycle ends here. Must be better than this.
Alright, that's their weakness. Fire is their weakness. How obvious.
Why'd you do it? Freya, he chose this.
I will rain down every violation imaginable upon you. I will parade your cold body from every corner of every realm and feed your soul to the vilest filth in hell. That is my promise.
He saved your life.
He robbed me of everything. Everything. You were just an animal. Casting on you cruelty and rage, you will never change.
And you do not know me.
I know enough. Does he?
I've seen a lot of people who are confused by Freya's reaction here. They ask, why is she so upset? Kratos just saved her life. She should be thanking him. She shouldn't be
What?
this
What a
angry.
bunch of idiots.
That if you watch this entire video up to this point, you get it. You understand her reaction. She sacrificed everything for her son, and she made the choice to die here. She accepted that death. Then Kratos took that choice away from her, ironically sort of doing to her exactly what she had done to Baldur when she made a choice for him, a choice that affected his entire life against his will. From Freya's perspective, Kratos has undone all her sacrifice. I've said it 100 times, and now I'll say it again. She sacrificed everything for Baldur. In her words, she has paid. If Baldur dies here, what was the point of all that sacrifice? Of course, we, the audience, agree with Kratos in this moment. Baldur was a truly terrible person, while Freya is a genuinely good person, a force of healing and good in this broken world. The world is absolutely better off with her alive and Kim dead. But this is an essay about Freya, and we're trying to understand her perspective. From this moment, that deep inner darkness within Freya that we had only seen glimpses of before is fully unleashed. The darkness was always there, the anger, the hurt. Freya had kept it bottled up before,
No.
but now she will give herself over to it totally, completely. From this moment, where before she had been a source of life and light in this story, Freya is going to be one of the darkest points in this world, utterly miserable, with no purpose beyond death and destruction. I have so much to say about Freya and her story that I've chosen to break this essay into 2 parts, one part covering each game. This is by far the longest video essay I've written so far, and the whole thing is becoming a bit top-heavy. I will be continuing this analysis of Freya's story very soon, examining the very dramatic arc her character undergoes in God of War Ragnarok, where she starts in the abyss and then claws her way back up. So please look forward to it.
No. I knew there would be a second round. Shit. I'll try ice.
In God of War 4, Freya was at first presented as a character wielding an unfamiliar kind of power in the God of War series. Rather than power based on strength or prowess in combat, her power was moral, ethical. She possessed a sort of sympathetic magic to heal and to protect. For Kratos and Atreus, she represented a possible future, a different kind of god they could become. Different than Zeus or Athena, different than Odin or Thor, a better kind of god. However, there was a hidden darkness within Freya, one which she kept well concealed. Freya had lost almost everything. She had lost her home, her family, and her freedom. She focused all of her hopes on her estranged son, Balder. Balder had come to hate her for casting an extremely limiting protection spell on his body for controlling his life, but Freya still loved her son, was willing to die for him. And when she watched Kratos kill her son, even though it was to save her life, that previously hidden inner darkness consumed her. This is where her character stands at the start of God of War Ragnarok. Her hatred and anger have completely possessed her. In Ragnarok, Freya follows one of the most dramatic arcs of any character in the series. She begins in the abyss, broken, her only motivation to punish those who have wronged her. She ends the game by offering mercy to Odin, the one who wronged her more than any other, and by becoming a close partner to Kratos, the man who killed her son. I don't think players always realize how crazy her narrative arc in this game really is. By the end, her character has totally transformed. So let's watch a little of it. Freya appears in the first 5 minutes of the game. I don't want to watch the whole appearance, only a little bit, because there's this tiny interaction she has with Atreus that I think is very important. So here it is.
Oh no! Freya, forgot your head in the
No.
Firstly, that other kind of power Freya wielded in the previous game, that moral, ethical power, that sympathetic magic of healing and protection, all of that is gone. It has vanished from her character. By the start of Ragnarok, that side of her character is lost. In this first scene, she's portrayed a lot like a lot of other gods in the series. Angry, violent, powerful, and that power is based on her physical and magical strength, on the ability to inflict violence, to force her will upon others. Except there's still a huge difference between her and all of the worst gods we've seen in the series. And you can see it in that tiny interaction between her and Atreus. While she and Kratos are fighting, Atreus draws his bow, aims it, and says, "Please don't make me do this." And she pauses. It only lasts half a second, but for that half second, she does stop fighting. She's being offered mercy, and she recognizes it. There is someone here she doesn't want to hurt. She does not want to hurt Atreus. She doesn't want him caught up in her explosion of violence. Compare this to Kratos in God of War 3. There are a lot of comparisons to make between Freya at the start of Ragnarok and Kratos throughout God of War 3. They are both characters who have
Everything's a mess now.
who have been tricked and betrayed again and again, who have lost everything, and now live only to punish those who have wronged them. They don't want anything for themselves, they don't want peace, they don't even really care about justice, they just want revenge. But Kratos slaughtered everyone in his path, anyone in the vicinity of his rampage. In his quest to destroy Zeus, he didn't care who else he hurt. I don't think the Kratos of God of War 3 would have stopped fighting here just because Atreus pulled the bow on him. Not even for half a second. But Freya does. Freya is different. Freya does have an inner goodness. Even now, at her lowest moment, she is not willing to hurt an innocent. And I know I'm making a big deal out of what is literally like 5 milliseconds of a cutscene. But I really do think that it demonstrates that Freya, even at her worst, is still better than the worst characters we've encountered in this series. Later in the story, on a very misguided attempt to offer Freya peace and partnership, Atreus goes by himself to talk with Freya. I don't want to watch this entire scene because it's a bit long and kind of exposition heavy, but there are 2 chunks of it I do want to watch, and we'll talk about them afterwards.
Freya!
You should have stayed with Sindri.
Wait! Stop!
Your father. Where is he?
Not here!
He sent you?
No! He doesn't know!
You shouldn't have come. You took my son. What makes you think I won't do the same?
You're better than this!
You would stake your life on it. What do you know? know you haven't killed me yet. What we found here. Maybe if you spoke to him, there was a lot. Yeah. We broke him out of Sparta Farm. Impossible. The 9 realms are closed to all. No. We opened up the way. We just don't know where to go next. But if we all band together, enough. Leave this place. Go and do not return. Go before I change my mind. Do not expect the same mercy for your father.
Okay, so Freya is really scary here. She is legitimately terrifying. But even if she's tempted by it, she's still not willing to hurt Atreus. Atreus didn't kill her son. He isn't fighting her, but is instead putting his life in her hands, trusting her. When she picks up that mistletoe arrowhead, the one that killed her son, which Atreus wears as some kind of memento to his first real victory, she is confronted by Atreus' involvement in her son's death. If there was ever a time when she was going to fly into a wild, violent rage and kill Atreus, it would be here. But she doesn't. She calms down, they talk. This is further evidence that Freya is different. That inner goodness is still within her. Her character has sort of reversed itself in this game. In God of War 4, she was a peaceful character with a hidden inner darkness that we only saw glimpses of. In Ragnarok, she has become a violent character with a hidden inner goodness that likewise we only see glimpses of, but that is very much still present. Her potential redemption is there for anyone to see. Now for the second part of this clip. Earlier, I described Freya as a character who had lost everything, her home, her family. But she's really lost 2 homes, 2 families. She of course lost Vanaheim, the home of her birth, but she's been exiled from Asgard too. We'll discuss it more later, but Asgard was a second home to her. She lost her birth family when she married Odin, but now she's lost her second family too. Her marriage with Odin has long collapsed. Baldur, her only son, hated her, and then was killed right in front of her. She had to bury his body herself, alone. By the start of Ragnarok, she has nothing left. Just like Kratos had nothing left at the start of God of War 3, and so threw himself into his violent quest for revenge, because that hatred and sense of having been wrong was all that he had. Freya does the same thing in Ragnarok. Until, in this conversation with Atreus, she suddenly learns that she may be able to regain her home. She may not have lost everything. Look at her reaction when she hears that travel between realms has been opened. How she immediately ends their conversation. If she can travel between realms, then she can go back to Vanaheim. She can free herself of Odin's curse. She can be free again. I've mentioned that Freya's quest for vengeance really depends on her having lost everything. She devotes her entire being to the quest to kill Kratos because she has nothing else left. But if she can go home, if she can regain her home, maybe even regain her family, that's not true anymore. In this scene, Freya is suddenly learning that her future life could be something more than hatred and violence and loss and bitterness. She could get her life back, or more accurately, since her old life is definitely gone forever, she could build a new life. The possibility of recovery, however slight, has been opened by the information Atreus provides. She doesn't give up on revenge just yet. Kratos still killed her son. She can spare Atreus, but in her eyes, Kratos still deserves death, which leads us to the next scene. Freya battles Kratos in full Valkyrie gear, wielding full Valkyrie powers. I haven't discussed it much in either of these videos, but Freya was the leader of the Valkyries, servants of Odin, a group of winged warrior women who guide the worthy dead to the halls of Valhalla to await the battle of Ragnarok. At one time, this was Freya's life. This was her identity. She had a central role in the mythos of Midgard and Asgard. She had companions. She had sisters in arms. The Freya we see in this battle is a very different character than either that calm and peaceful Witch of the Woods we saw in God of War 4, or that desperate, broken Revenger we saw at the start of Ragnarok. This Freya is controlled, determined, and focused. Look how different her movements are here compared to that first scene. In that first scene, she was flying all over the place, knocking over trees, in a rampage, wielding wanton destruction. Look how much more control she has over her body and her emotions now. And I think this new control is a direct result of her earlier conversation with Atreus, to discovering she may not have lost everything. In this battle, you can already see her restoring parts of her old self, regaining her composure. Now, let's watch how this battle ends, because I think it's one of the most important scenes in the game, and one of the most important.
Okay, so that doesn't do anything.
Wasn't on Friday. Trace.
Oh, prevent order, that's what I wanted.
Trace.
Alright, let's try getting prevent order.
Baby. For a moment, you were more used to me. Love.
In that moment of surprise when he realizes who she is, Freya is able to overcome Kratos. Revenge is in her grasp. And then Atreus transforms into a freaking rampaging bear, which surely must be something of a shock for her. But then Kratos leaps in front of her, leaps into the path of the rampaging bear to save her. The man she was just about to kill is fighting for her, is trying to save her life. Video game animations have come so far. It's honestly incredible. I think you can actually see the complicated series of emotions that Freya feels on her character's face, in her eyes, in her expressions. It's amazing, both in performance and technology. Think about that complicated series of emotions Freya must be feeling here. First, there is simply the adrenaline, the effects of battle, the sort of natural high that comes from fighting and competition. Then there's the shock at being defended by a man she just tried to kill. Perhaps gratitude mixed with resentment. Resentment that he would defend her at all, that he would jump in her path, that he still refuses to fight her even now. There must be regret, regretting everything that she's lost. Regretting that her relationship with a man who still calls her friend has deteriorated to this state. Regret that she almost took a boy's father away from him. Frustration as she realizes that Kratos is a wrong person. He is not the monster she's convinced herself he must be. He defends her, he calls her friend. Frustration as she realizes he doesn't truly deserve death, that she will never have her revenge. Because her revenge wouldn't be right, there's still that rage and fury within her too. And now seeing him interact with his own son, seeing that he still has what she doesn't, that he still has what he took from her, a relationship with his living son. Every single one of these emotions is roiling within her at the same time. And I think you can see every single one on her face. You can hear her frustration and conflicting emotions in that scream at the end, when she finally chooses to spare Kratos. It's tremendous writing and character development. Freya's arc up to this point is something worth studying from a writing perspective, to understand how the writers were able to craft a character that feels this genuine and this dynamic. Next, Freya returns to Vanaheim, probably for the first time since her marriage to Odin, centuries ago. It's been so long since her last visit that she is essentially as much of a stranger in this place as Kratos is. Vanaheim appears apocalyptic. Its population has vanished. Every settlement is abandoned and in ruins. Freya sees firsthand the totality
I forgot how
of Odin's betrayal.
long-winded some of these fights can get.
For the sake of peace between their peoples, she abandoned her home to save her home. And Odin destroyed that home anyway, left it a ruined and wasted place. Freya knew that Odin had resumed the war against Vanaheim, but I don't think she had any idea of the true scale of the destruction. Imagine the hatred
Finally.
she must feel for Odin at seeing her.
And everyone's alive this time.
Here we also learn that many of the people she left behind in Vanaheim resented her leaving, including her brother Freyr. Some of the people of Vanaheim called her a traitor. She led them, and then she left them, and then their world was destroyed. From their perspective, how could they not resent her? This adds a new wrinkle to Freya's loss. We knew she lost her family and home, but here we learn that she lost her people's respect and trust as well, something even harder to regain than the physical home itself. There's a brief meeting here between her and her brother Freyr, who she also hasn't seen in centuries, but I'm going to pass right over it, because there's a more interesting scene between them later on. Her and Freyr's relationship is strained. It seems that he deeply resented her decision to marry Odin and go to Asgard.
Whoa!
But that she was betrayed. Harsh things were said between them at the wedding, and that was the last they ever saw of each other until now. Both Brock and Kratos offer
Okay, that was worth it.
repairing her relationship with her brother, which she rejects. Because when she first arrives in Vanaheim, she is totally focused. On breaking Odin's curse. Her brother is entirely secondary to this goal. In Vanaheim, Kratos and Freya spend a lot of time alone together while journeying towards the source of Odin's curse. We usually focus these essays on the cutscenes of the games because they're cinematic and exciting and very narratively dense. But so much of the story of these games is told through the dialogue between characters while you're playing the game, while fighting and exploring. And this section of Ragnarok is a prime example of that. Much of the healing in their relationship occurs in the dialogue throughout this section of gameplay, where Freya and Kratos discuss their pasts, their different perspectives, their future, their children. Something I was struck by here was how little
they have a
Freya
unique
actually knows about
drop.
Kratos. They've only really had like 5 conversations total up to this point. Kratos knows a lot about Freya's backstory through Mimir's stories.
Oh my god, no
Freya knows
weaknesses.
very little about Kratos' background.
Only
She is at least
resistances.
broadly aware of his destruction of the Greek pantheon, but she doesn't know anything about
So that
his
was a
first
manticore.
or
That makes a lot of sense.
about the killing
With
of
all
his
the
wife and daughter, his
frickin'
bloody quest for revenge,
status
and
ailments
his
it
later
wasn't lifting.
relationship with Laufey. Something else I was struck by was how similar Kratos and Freya's stories are. These are both characters who have been lied to, manipulated by, betrayed by, hurt by
Let's do one more.
selfish and power-obsessed gods. They are both warriors who once laid down their arms in a search for peace. These are both characters who have lost their homes, their families, who have battled prophecy, who have lost themselves to quest for revenge, lost themselves to their own inner darkness. They both lost their children. They have a lot in common. And I think they finally both recognize that similarity in each other here. Kratos and Freya will end this game as close partners. And I think a lot of the reason for that is their similarities. They can understand each other's struggles because they have both lived them. Now that Freya has entered her quest for revenge, at least against Kratos, she's able to talk. I think this part of the story demonstrates the importance of talking, of diplomacy and empathy, of trying to understand each other, especially people we perceive as our enemies. Imagine if Odin were capable of doing this, of just talking without ulterior motives, diplomacy without manipulation. The things he wants, knowledge, understanding the mysteries of his world, of his own existence. These are the things that giants in the Vanir could have helped him with, things they could have worked together towards. The tragedy of this and almost any other story of a tyrant is how unnecessary that tyranny is. But back to Freya. Freya and Kratos succeed in breaking Odin's curse. And I think what follows is the best cutscene in the entire game, so let's watch it. You're done.
Yeah, I was in the correct level there. Damn. It was mostly just status ailments. I mean, Petrify is very dangerous, but... Alright, looks like I'm done. Let me just go to the guild.
Now let's grab what you seek.
I suppose this is the point where I forgive you, where I kill you.
Have you decided?
To be honest, I don't think I can do either. There's still a part of me that is so angry. It'll always be. It'll always be.
I wanna bring Alma.
But no.
Give her a gun, it'll be amazing.
You are not today.
I can bring them both, but I want a defender. All I have are piercing damages though now. Piercing and slashing.
No need to explain. Not to me. Not for that.
Whatever, this is a good team. I think. It would be nice.
I do not regret saving your life. And never will. But the choice between life and death should have been yours to make. I should not have robbed you of that choice. Something I really admire about the writing here is that the writers resist giving us a clean resolution to this conflict. So many video games, even really good ones, have simple storylines in the sense that their stories conclude in some neat and
Well,
very
everyone
final
uses
way.
fire.
But that's not how conflicts in real life end. Most conflicts in your life will not have any ending, any resolution at all. Most real life conflicts will just sort of meander or peter out or come and go in waves. Even if you talk it out, even if you forgive, come to some kind of understanding, most real life conflicts will still be messy. They won't have perfect endings even if things work out. And that's what we get here in this scene. There is no neat and final conclusion to the conflict between Freya and Kratos. She can't just forgive him. That wouldn't be the end of it. No matter how much they work together, no matter how well they understand each other, there will always be that anger and resentment because Kratos killed her son. He broke her son's neck right in front of her. I don't think anyone ever gets over the death of a child, especially a violent death. That Freya is able to work with Kratos at all speaks to that tremendous moral power, which we saw within her in God of War 4. I also think that Kratos' response speaks volumes to the growth his character has undergone in these games. He understands the emotional conflict within Freya very well. He understands why she can't forgive, why that anger will always be there. He speaks honestly and truly with her, treats her with respect as an equal. This analysis isn't focused on Kratos, so I'm not going to linger on him, but it must be noted that because of the growth he has gone through, he's able to inspire similar growth in other characters. And in these scenes, he has been inspiring Freya. The next big scene is her reconciliation with her brother Freyr. Before I say anything about this scene at all, I want to watch it. I want to ask you sort of writerly question. As you watch this next scene, does it seem like it has the same emotional weight as the previous scene between Freya and Kratos? Does it hit as hard emotionally as the previous scene?
We lost everything to that maniac you called husband. The man's family set me on fire. How did you expect me to react?
Like my brother! Like the boy that used to have my back no matter what! And who I always supported no matter how selfish his choices. I expected you to come and find me. And no matter how hurt or angry, you would hand me when I needed you the most.
Freya, please. I thought you were dead. I had to live lifetimes. And those last awful words I said. You have any idea what that's like? Knowing that your own selfishness hurt the person that you care about the most. Abandon you. Oh, Freya. I warned you. I missed you so much.
And I but I won't bind myself to another realm when I finally have my freedom. I'll send help.
has become always. Do what you gotta do. Okay, so my question was, does this scene have the same emotional weight as the previous one? For me, it does not at all. The writing here is just as good as before. It has the same honesty, the same genuineness, the same raw quality to the emotions that made the previous scene hit so hard. And it's tremendously well acted. Both of these voice actors are completely nailing the scene. But even though it's just as well written, just as well acted, good in all the ways that the previous scene was good, I still don't think it hits nearly as hard as the previous scene. The problem is that I don't know Freyr. As a member of the audience, I haven't spent much time with Freyr. I haven't seen this conflict develop, seen it hurt these characters. That scene between Kratos and Freya is a payoff of hours and hours of storytelling. 2 entire games worth of story and conflict, of getting to know both of those characters very intimately, to care about them, honestly, better for each other. The scene between Freya and Freyr does not have that weight built up. Those hours of storytelling.
bond to my son. To the Valkyries. The damn realm isn't just moments. It belongs to me too.
I want to start by killing this guy. You were annoying when I was...
I'm surprised they hid this scene behind an optional side quest, because it feels really essential to her character development. I spoke earlier about how Freya has lost 2 homes, 2 families, and in this scene she realizes that for herself. Asgard was her home for a very long time. Odin and the rest of the Aesir were her family. I also spoke earlier about that lack of a clean resolution to Kratos and Freya's conflict. And here we see that kind of messiness and resolution again. Freya can't just neatly cut herself off from Odin and Asgard. They were together for too long. They've had too many experiences together. There really is no such thing as closure. Whatever experiences you've had with another person, good or bad, those experiences are always going to be a part of you. Here, Freya is learning that it's not a question of, how do I cleanse myself of these experiences? Instead, it's a question of, how do I go on living with these experiences? And we don't get any concise answer to that question, because it's something Freya is going to have to wrestle with for the rest of her life. Next, there's this section where the player takes control of Atreus. Atreus runs away from his father and he wanders into Freya's old home. In God of War 4, Freya lived underneath a giant tortoise, and when she embarked on her quest for revenge, she abandoned that giant tortoise, left it to die in the cold. Atreus only barely arrives in time to save his life. As someone who has pets, who really loves his pets, and who is revolted by the idea of someone abandoning their pet, I find this hard to forgive. Freya should not have abandoned this giant tortoise, this magical animal who relied on her. It's a really bad thing to do. It does demonstrate how drastic Freya's transformation has been, and also how much further she has left to go. In God of War 4, Freya was a character who cared. She was a caregiver. She took care of the animals in her woods, considered them her friends. The Freya of God of War 4 never would have allowed any harm to come to this tortoise. The Freya of Ragnarok is too obsessed with her revenge to care. Even after the reconciliation with both Kratos and Freyr, when she seems so much closer to her old self again, so much healthier, she still never goes back to the tortoise. Not even to check out.
Oh my.
Even though she seems healthier on the outside, on the inside, she is still too obsessed with revenge to take care of
Vale, please wake
it's
up.
the same reason why she didn't remain in Vanaheim to leave the van here. She is not her old self again. She is still consumed by her inner darkness. And I think you can see that in all of her dialogue going forward. From here on, Freya's role in the story is to be a voice for war. In every discussion between the characters, every council, she is the one arguing to take the fight to Odin as soon as possible, as aggressively as possible. This is a very different character than the one who appeared in God of War 4, who tried to stop the fighting between Kratos and Baldur. This is a Freya who wants a fight, who really doesn't want anything else. When Kratos briefly abandons the quest to destroy Odin, she abandons Kratos, returns to Vanaheim to fight the Aesir there. Eventually, she does get her way. Alongside Kratos, she battles and defeats Odin. Freya's reconciliation with Kratos and Freya occurs maybe a third of the way through the game. There's about 20 hours of story and gameplay that happen in between then and the end of the game. And Freya is
Looks
present
like
for
her
all
Red
of
is
it,
gonna
but
be
we
really
are not
useful
going to
here,
watch
huh?
a single scene from that very long section of the game. In my video about Thor, I discussed the difference between a character's actual presence and their narrative presence. Actual presence is how often a character is actually on screen. Narrative presence is how much a character's actions and choices drive the narrative forward. In God of War 4, Thor and Odin were characters with no actual presence in the story, because neither of them ever actually appeared in that game. But they both had huge narrative presence, because their choices and actions shaped the world Kratos and Atreus were journeying through. In God of War Ragnarok, following her reconciliation with Kratos, Freya becomes a character with a ton of actual presence, because she's around constantly. She appears in nearly every cutscene. She has very little narrative presence. She's not driving the story forward. Kratos and Atreus and Odin are the ones really pushing the story towards its conclusion. And Thor and Heimdall and even Brock and Sindri are too. But Freya, not so much. She functions as a partner to Kratos in the absence of Atreus. She serves as a guide during the quest for the Norns. As already mentioned in every discussion of future plans, she is a voice for war. She is a major force in organizing the Battle of Ragnarok. But the question is, if Freya wasn't present, would those things have still happened? If Freya leaves the story after her reconciliation with Kratos, what major events of the plot would change? I do love and really admire her character, but I don't think the plot changes much without her from here on. And I don't think she has a lot of influence on the story. Without her, I think Odin still manipulates Atreus. I think Heimdall still eventually confronts Kratos under different circumstances, of course. I think Kratos still ultimately leads the battle for Ragnarok, again, under different circumstances. This isn't a criticism of the writing. It's not a better or worse story depending on Freya's narrative presence. This is just an analysis of how the story is functioning and how her character is functioning within it. That's not to say that nothing important happens with her character during this time. When she meets the Norns and learns that it was her own nature, her own decisions, that led to the death of her son instead of just some unshakable prophecy. That's definitely very important for her character. Before that moment, she believed that the prophesied death of her son was absolute, that there was nothing she ever could have done to prevent it. From the Norns, she learns that if she had made different choices, her son might still be alive, which must be a hard thing for her to accept. It would be much easier to blame his death on fate instead of on herself, but she can't do that anymore. Then there's the scene where Odin stabs Brock and then Freya chooses to drop her sword so she can help Brock instead of pursue Odin. I think that's a really important moment for her character too. We've talked a lot about how obsessed Freya is with revenge, with killing Odin. But when the choice is right in front of her, when she has to choose between fighting Odin or helping someone in need, she chooses to help Brock. That inner goodness within her still wins out. This is evidence that Freya is still that pure character that we met back in the previous
Did I put Alma's gun?
She chooses to recognize Kratos as the general.
And she's dealing a lot of damage.
Ragnarok. That's another
What
important
if?
moment for her character, particularly for her relationship with Kratos. This is Freya recognizing his competence, his judgment, his leadership abilities. She started this story hating him, trying to kill him, and now she's asking him to lead her in battle. Can you imagine a greater sign of respect when she turns the tables on Odin in the final battle? And to matter of mercy, that's a huge moment for her character too. It's her physically most powerful moment in either game. It's the first time in her entire life that she's had real power over Odin, someone who has dominated her life for a very long time. She has this bit where she declares, "You have no hold over me anymore," and then she spreads her wings and it looks really cool. Odin tries this desperate and pathetic last attempt at manipulating her, by claiming he always loved her. She doesn't fall for it at all, and it's very satisfying to see how little power Odin's manipulations have on anyone anymore. He's experienced a total collapse in standing, and he deserves it. The reason I'm kind of rushing through each of these moments is because, while well written and compelling and dramatic, I don't think any of them really tells us anything about Freya we didn't already know. We already knew Freya's choices, at least in part, shaped her son's fate, and she's spoken often enough about her regret that we know she knows it too. We know about Freya's enduring inner goodness. We know she respects Kratos. Just look at how she fights side by side with him for half the game. We know Odin is a pitiful little cock in comparison to her. So I'm fast forwarding to one of the last scenes in the game, to Odin's death. Because here we do finally encounter something new in Freya's character, or at least so it seems at first. Kratos, Atreus, and Freya together defeat Odin. Atreus puts Odin's soul in this little marble, and Kratos offers that marble to Freya so she can finally have her revenge on her hated enemy. And let's see how she reacts. I swore I would never rob you the choice between life and death.
It seems playing with a controller, there's a hold feature. I'm gonna try it later, but it's really annoying that it seems very sensitive.
I have waited so long for this moment. And now that I'm here, I don't need this to make me whole.
her anymore. But it wasn't true. She was still obsessed with exacting her revenge upon him then. Now, she's actually fulfilled that statement. If she's willing to give up this obsession to let Odin go, he really does have no hold on her anymore. She can finally move on. That inner goodness within Freya has finally won out. She's never going to be exactly that person we met back in God of War 4. Too much has happened to her. She's changed too much. But I do think from here on, she's
That
going to
assailant is
pursue
supposed to heal
peace
automatically.
instead of destruction. This is exactly the growth in her character we all wanted to see from the very beginning of the game. I can't imagine that anyone liked seeing Freya broken, obsessed with violence and revenge. We want her to be whole and good again. But I have another writer's question, which is, when did this growth actually happen? When did this change in her character occur? Just in the previous scene, like 5 minutes ago, she still seemed very willing to kill Odin, but now, suddenly, she doesn't need to anymore. So what happened? What was the catalyst for this growth? The only explanation that makes sense to me is that for all of her rage and all of her talk, Freya was never really willing to kill either Kratos or Odin. She did have opportunities to do so. She has both of them at her mercy at different points during the game. If she was a little quicker, she could have killed either of them, but she doesn't. I think when the critical moment arrived, the goodness within Freya was always going to win out. At her core, she is merciful. She would have to overcome that deep and merciful part of herself to kill them. I doubt she even realizes this about herself. She probably thinks she really is willing to kill them, but her actions say otherwise. I should probably say something about Freya's death here, but to be honest, I don't have much to say. Freyr sacrifices himself so everyone else can escape. I'm not sure why the writers chose to do this. It's sad, but also kind of random. I think it's meant to be some sort of fulfillment of an arc for his character, where he has gone from being a sarcastic, nonchalant guy to a true hero who is willing to sacrifice everything for the people he cares about. It doesn't really land for me. Again, I think it's just a question of screen time. He just has not been on screen quite enough
annoying.
for me to have fallen in love with Freyr, the same way that I've fallen in love with all.
Okay, I really hate this team.
Like Thor's death hit me.
Vale has proven
If Freya
herself,
had
in my
sacrificed
opinion,
herself,
but
I would be devastated. Freyr's
I don't
death
wanna-
is nuts.
I don't want to play in a team
Moving
with her
forward
anymore.
into the post-game content. And God of War
Please.
Ragnarok does have some really substantial post-game content. The developers didn't just craft this massive dimension-hopping fantasy adventure, but also a ton of stuff to do even after the adventure has ended. And through all of this post-game content, you will be playing as Kratos and accompanied by Freya. In this epilogue, Kratos and Freya have become close partners, comrades in arms, fighting and adventuring side by side. It's a pretty dramatic and unexpected end considering where the story started. I actually find this partnership to be really interesting. It's very different than the Kratos and Atreus pairing. The power dynamics are completely different. With Atreus, Kratos was obviously the adult.
I don't think I need
Atreus was the
V3.
child. Kratos was the obvious leader. He was in charge. On the other hand, Kratos and Freya are equals. Freya has experienced just as much as Kratos. She's fought in as many battles. She is just as powerful. Kratos can't be the leader here. Freya is too intelligent and too independent for that. Unlike Atreus, she's not going to do whatever he says. This power dynamic, this equality in their partnership, doesn't really get explored much in the post-game. I'd really like to see this partnership continued in a future game, to see how they can work with each other and share decision-making. But I don't think that's likely to happen. The most logical place for Freya's story to go from here is back to Vanaheim, to rebuild, to become a leader again. And there's a lot of story left to tell there. Remember, Freya has lost the trust and respect of many of her people, and she will have to fight to regain that. Freya started this series as the Witch in the Woods, this mysterious and helpful guide character. From there, her story has taken some dramatic turns. She dropped into an abyss and climbed back out. She began this series as an example of a moral character, and that's where she ends too, as an example of Mercy's ultimate triumph. However, Freya's story isn't really complete without Baldur's story, her son, and that's where I'd like to go next. Soon, I'd like to do a deep dive into Baldur's story in God of War 4 in the same way I've done for Freya, so look forward to that. The portrayal of Metroid Space Pirates has changed pretty significantly from one release to the next. Back in Super Metroid, the Space Pirates were these crustacean aliens with big snappy lobster claws for hands, crawling up and down the walls. It's actually a really cool sprite design. The Space Pirates of Metroid Prime are much more lizard-like. They have scaly green skin, reptilian faces, and three-fingered clawed hands.
Guess we're exploring the
Something that's
morning.
become
I honestly thought this would be an ice gimmick. You know, slippery tiles.
Space Pirates have cybernetically altered
If you played any RPG, you should know what I'm talking about.
the way the metal
Anyway,
has
check
been
this out.
merged
Yeah,
with
I was just holding down the accept button there. That's so annoying that that's a thing you can do. Oh.
Force their ground troops to do
Okay, that was
It wasn't just
amazing.
the visual design that changed between games. Back in Super Metroid, the Space Pirates were pretty generically evil space aliens. They crawled around, they looked creepy, they shot lasers at you, and that's about it. There wasn't a lot of story to them. They didn't have much personality. They didn't have any motivation besides some vague desire to conquer the galaxy. The Space Pirates of Metroid and Super Metroid had no voice.
Oh,
They
boy.
never spoke, never wrote anything down the player could read, never explained their motivations or their perspective. There are a lot of silent protagonists in video games, especially in the early days. Samus is one of them, she never speaks. And there are just as many silent antagonists too. The Space Pirates in Super Metroid were a silent antagonist. It's an interesting challenge to think about how a story gets told when both its protagonists and antagonists are silent. This changed in Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime has a scan visor with which the player can scan Space Pirate computer terminals. You can read their scientific notations, their security logs, orders issued from their high command, their journals, their aspirations, their
I'm starting to think I might actually want
frustrations.
V3
A lot
after
has
all.
been said about how extraordinary the jump from 2D to 3D was in Metroid Prime, but I think this ability to scan Space Pirate text logs is just as extraordinary of a leap, but of a different kind. This is a narrative leap. In this game, the Space Pirates went from being a totally silent antagonist with very vague motivations, no personality or culture to speak of, into an antagonist with a voice with a lot to say, with specific named motivations, into a defined alien culture whose societal values we could understand. It's a huge change. In Metroid Prime, you can read what the Space Pirates have to say about
Okay,
Samus,
Alma is
about
using the
Metroids,
gun right
about
now.
Chozo, about Phazon, about their goals, in their own words, from their own perspective. From a narrative lens, this is a really extraordinary transformation. It's really fascinating. The writers had to take a tiny little bit of information they could glean about Space Pirates from those lobster claw sprites.
I got the unique
in
drop.
Super
How did I do
Metroid,
that?
And blow it up into an entire alien intergalactic empire. So let's look at it. Let's examine how these Space Pirates are portrayed in Metroid Prime. How the writers brought them to life detail
Wow.
by detail. In Metroid Prime, you can find
That
and
knife
scan
sure is
25
something.
logs, which are labeled as pirate data. These 25 logs.
I don't think I need the
tell
mushroom
Space
dagger
Pirates in their
equipped at
own
all
words.
times.
In this video, I will read all 25 of these logs,
Anyway,
analyze
so
each
Super
of
Speed
them,
was kind of
examine
not,
what
was
they
kind
tell
of
us about the Space
underwhelming.
Pirates' motivations, their culture, their society, what makes them tick, as well as examine each of these Space Pirate facilities we explore on the planet of Talon 4, and discuss a lot of other miscellaneous pirate-related scams throughout the game. There are actually slightly different versions of these logs in different releases of the game, so just know that I am analyzing the log entries as they appear in Metroid Prime Remastered, as those tell the canon version of the Space Pirate story. In this video, I'm going to be analyzing a lot of very small, seemingly random details, because the way the writers of Metroid Prime crafted the identity of the Space Pirates is by one small, seemingly random detail at a time, in scans from all over the game. What I want to do is combine all of those small details together into a cohesive picture of who the Space Pirates are. Anyway, the first pirate facility you will explore in Metroid Prime is the research frigate Orpheon, in orbit around the planet Talon 4. The Orpheon is an entire vessel dedicated to nothing but research, a science vessel. This is immediately interesting, because in Metroid and Super Metroid, anything pirate-related you could find was combat or battle-related. The Orpheon is the first time in the series when you see the pirates in a non-war footing. See something domestic in their culture. See them at home, so to speak. And its design already tells us a lot about that culture. You can learn a ton about a society from how they shape their spaces. The Orpheon's interior has a dark and comfortless design. There's very little color here, no plants, no artwork, no decoration anywhere in the visual design. Absolutely everything you see is functional in some way. It is factory-like. Every inch of this vessel is used for work. There is nothing extraneous, nothing recreational, nothing comforting. No life at all other than the space pirates themselves and the twisted results of their experiments. Immediately, you get the sense of a culture without much of what we would call
Why would you poison
no
me?
art, no music, no literature. It's a very stark contrast to the Chozo culture you explore later, which is absolutely filled to the brim with art and ornamentation everywhere you look. But I'll do a full video on the Chozo later. Aboard the Orpheon, the space pirates conducted horrific experiments, using a newly discovered mutagenic substance called Phazon. With Phazon, they forcefully mutate creatures into frightening new shapes. Mutations that are painful, violent, and grotesque. These slithering parasite creatures you see here get morphed into this hulking, destructive, acid-belching leviathan. The space pirates' research is extreme. There is nothing careful or cautious about their research method. Their research modus operandi is to go as far as possible, as fast as possible, with very little regard to safety or consequences. These are the sorts of scientists who never ask whether they should, only whether they can. It's a dangerous way to do things and has some predictable results. Just like Dr. Frankenstein's famous monsters, these space pirates have lost control of their creations. Their creations have turned against them. You can see one here that tore a gaping hole in the ship, slaughtering all in its path before finally being killed. By the time Samus arrives at the Orpheon, chaos reigns. The ship is in critical condition. Its horrific research subjects are on the loose, tearing holes in the ship's systems. All of the space pirate crew are fled, dead, or dying, fleeing from or slain by the results of their own experiments. Now let's look at some scans on the ship. This set of scans discusses the mutations their experiment has undergone, and I want to pay particular attention to this one. Combat mutation applications are complete. This is the purpose of all their research. Combat, conquest, war. These space pirates want to turn living creatures into weapons. As we read more of their scans, it will become clearer that this is the purpose of all their research. It's always about combat. It's always about getting an edge in the next battle, and we'll discuss that more in a bit. Next, this set of scans detail the mutation process, the injection of Phazon. This particular creature did not survive. The scan says cell structure failing. The mutations were so drastic that they tore this creature apart at the cellular level. I think it's clear that this experimentation process is an extremely painful and often deadly one. I know they're just weird, ugly, alien parasite creatures, so we don't really care about them. And furthermore, as a video game,
nice.
none of these creatures are real, so we care even less. But I think it's worth noting that the space pirates are subjecting living creatures to immense pain and suffering here. They are torturing these animals.
I thought Ia got the final blow.
These
Alright,
space
we got
pirates
this.
are depicted as a compassionless culture, willing to do anything in the name of scientific progress. This is science without ethical limitations. This is experimentation without any consideration for the well-being of the test subject. The Orpheon also
I just gotta hope one of these days.
log, the logs that tell the story of the space pirates in their own words. So here it is. Zebes has fallen. All ground personnel are presumed dead, either killed by the hunter-clad in metal or
Alright,
the
that was a bad
subsequent
idea.
destruction of the underground facilities. Our research frigates Orpheon, Syracuse, and Volparagon were in orbit at 0 hour and managed to retreat. Frigate Orpheon is now docked at Vortex Outpost. Orpheon's cargo appears to have a 100% survival rate. Metroids are healthy but on restricted schedules due to unstable supply status. We are ready to begin research on the Metroids and other promising life forms. Security status remains at Code Blue. No signs of pursuit from the Hunter. So, Metroid Prime takes place directly after the original Metroid game. It's very early in the Metroid timeline. The planet Zebes was the site of a massive underground space pirate base, which Samus completed completely destroyed. From the Space Pirate perspective, this would be a dramatic and shocking event. A single person, a single bounty hunter, laid waste to an entire planet's worth of space pirates. All their technology, all their soldiers. For them, it must be nearly unbelievable. One thing I think is really interesting is seeing how the space pirates perceive Samus. Like, what is their view of her? What do they think of her? And the writers did a particularly good job answering that question.
There
The
you
space
go.
pirates refer to Samus as the Hunter, and I love this title. The Hunter comes with it an implicit sense of respect and fear. If she is the Hunter, then they are her prey. The space pirates aren't the kind of villains who shake their fists and say, "We'll get you next time, loser, you just wait and see." Instead, they're like, "That lady is freaking crazy. She is the Hunter. We don't want anything to do with her." I really like this. As the player controlling Samus, reading this makes you feel powerful. Like, you guys should be scared of me. I'm kicking your butts. I also want to talk about that mention of the 3 research frigates, the Orpheon, Syracuse, and Volgaragon. There's no discussion anywhere in this log of combat vessels, of battle frigates. Instead, it only discusses their research frigates. The writers have changed the focus of the space pirates. Back in Super Metroid, the primary thing the space pirates did was crawl on the walls and shoot lasers. In Metroid Prime, the primary thing the space pirates do is research. Theirs is an
Taking into account the environment as well as the enemies we encounter.
research frigates rather than frigates. All of these space pirate facilities we explore.
I have decided on a team.
Facilities, not combat-focused facilities, not military barracks, not military factories. They are full of research stations. Most of the scans you read in the game discuss these space pirates' experiments. I think this is really smart writing. Give your antagonist something to do besides fighting. And an interesting part of this is that, usually in fiction, the pursuit of knowledge, curiosity, scientific rigor, and scientific progress are depicted as noble traits. Very often we like and admire scientist characters and stories. However, within the space pirate culture, these usually noble traits have been twisted. In Space Pirates, science and industry, which can be so very beneficial and good, have been taken to their most violent, most destructive, most corrupt extreme. The Space Pirates use science to inflict pain and suffering, to torture, to destroy. As I mentioned earlier, the sole purpose of their research, of their curiosity, is to develop weaponry, to win battles, to become the supreme force in the galaxy. Power for power's sake. Space pirate culture is twisted and frightening. All the more so because they're good at it. These aren't a bunch of bumbling idiots. The space pirates are good scientists. Their experiments have real practical results. They are not afraid to take extreme risks. They are not afraid of catastrophic failure. Every time they fail, like on the Orpheon, they just pick up the pieces and start again right where they left off. This first log also contains the first mention of Metroids in the game. The Orpheon used to have a full complement of Metroids for study, though by the time Samus shows up, they've been transferred onto a planet. The space pirates are obsessed with Metroids. This holds true through pretty much all of the games in the series.
You
While
mean to
in the games,
cancel?
Metroids tend to be fairly weak enemies, but you just have to hit them with an ice beam and then they're pretty much done. In the allure of the Metroid series, Metroids are supposed to be really scary. Metroids are essentially indestructible, with only one weakness. You can freeze them, but most people don't have an ice beam like Samus does. If anyone else encounters a Metroid, you're basically already dead. You just can't kill them. The space pirates recognize the tremendous potential of the Metroids. If they could be harnessed, they could be a devastating weapon. Of course, throughout the series, no space pirate scientist ever succeeds in taming a Metroid, but that doesn't stop them from trying again and again. The space pirates possess an intrinsic tenacity. No matter how many times they fail, they just don't give up. Now, we're gonna move on from the research frigate Orpheon. Samus tracks down the last of the space pirates' escaped experiments, the Parasite Queen, and after defeating it in battle, it falls into the ship's energy core. Things start exploding, and Samus escapes. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the Chozo. I'm gonna do a full essay on the Chozo's story in Metroid Prime later, but for now there's a couple things you need to know about them to better understand the space pirates. So, the Chozo are an ancient intergalactic species, incredibly technologically advanced. But unlike the space pirates, the Chozo were deeply spiritually minded. They cared about art, they cared about nature, they cared about philosophy, they cared about harmony. In the story of Metroid Prime, the space pirates and the Chozo are foils to each other. They are the opposites of each other in almost every way. On Talon 4, the Chozo lived in spiritual and technological harmony with nature, until the planet was impacted by an apocalyptic extragalactic asteroid. The asteroid carried with it Phazon, a mutagenic substance the space pirates were experimenting with on the Orpheon. The Phazon spread throughout the planet, killing almost all life. And what little life it didn't kill, it transformed, mutated into hideous new forms. In their writings, the Chozo refer to Phazon as a poison. It is poisoning the planet, killing it. The Chozo tried to contain this poison. This difference in perspective between the Chozo and the space pirates is interesting.
I don't need this team with Ashley.
Recognize
I've decided I don't care about her anymore.
They know
Lol.
that it kills, that it mutates, but they aren't afraid of it. Instead, those exact qualities excite them. Where the Chozo see poison, the space pirates see potential. It's just like the Metroids, a terrifying and deadly species that are impossible to control. But because the space pirates are mad scientists willing to
2 healers would be nice.
to experiment on anything if there is even the slightest combat potential, they will open Pandora's box. They will trip over themselves in their rush.
Alma
to
can't
open Pandora's box.
double,
They are
which
so
is
excited
nice.
to unleash its devastating power, without any regard to whether they might be caught in its blast. The second space pirate facility you explore in the game
This can
is
still
very
be a
small,
safe and powerful
located in
team.
magma-filled magmar caverns. Here, the space pirates have constructed a geothermal power station. All over the caverns, you can see their technologies siphoning liquid hot magma from
Teosa's the only one that has full
shipping it
cleansing
off to their power generators.
at a row.
This facility is unique in that
I need
it's
to build another character that can do that.
Space pirate location in the entire game. And because it's not research focused, it seems like the space pirates don't really care about it. It's small and there aren't many actual space pirates around. There are a couple worthwhile scans here though. First, this scan says that the local crystal formations don't contain much Phazon, but they do have a high value to the monks of Gorondheim. So this particular pirate recommends processing the crystal for that market once Phazon operations cease. This is the only mention in the entire series of the monks of Gorondheim, so I can't even guess who they might be. I'm pretty sure this is one of the only mentions of commerce in the entire series. The Metroid universe does not contain much mercantilism. The space pirates themselves are an oddly named antagonist. Even back in the original Metroid, they never do any real pirating. They don't act like pirates. Their goal is galactic domination, which isn't something historical pirates really cared about. Historical pirates wanted wealth and plunder. The space pirates never really seemed to care that much about money, except in this scan. Apparently, the space pirates sell things to the monks of Gorondheim. Sometimes. I also think that line, once Phazon operations have ceased, is pretty funny. Phazon is the most extraordinary discovery the space pirates have ever made. Phazon operations are going to be the only kind of operations they will run for the entire Metroid Prime trilogy. But not all space pirates are on the same page. Down here in the geothermal power plant, there's some doofus space pirate who's like, "Ooh, as soon as we're done with this Phazon stuff, we can sell some crystals to the monks of Gorondheim."